we still trusting out there, Dean?
I think Barbara, while Dean is still playing with different colors, you may want to start the meeting.
I will. We are running 2 minutes late. I apologize. So welcome everyone to another evening of Toastmasters. I do not see any guests tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I'm going to start the meeting by having our Sergeant of Arms, Rob Tidd, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam President. If everyone would please mute themselves, focus on my screen, and repeat along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Back to you, Madam President. And you are on mute.
I've got so many windows open. It's all right. So tonight, our theme is one simple idea, and I am going to be introducing the Toastmaster of the evening, who is, wow, Rob Tidd.
Well, thank you, Madam President. Good to be back with you folks. Tonight, I think we have at least one agenda change. Our illustrious president is going to fill in as the grammarian unless Fabiola does join us. So Barbara, thank you for stepping up so quickly and giving us a word so quickly, which I know you will be sharing with us in a little bit. We don't have any guests this evening. I am going to ask for an offer to give the joke of the day. Do we have Eric? Eric has a joke. Please share your joke with us, Eric.
In addition to communicating with the local air traffic control facility, an aircraft in the Persian Gulf are required to give the Iranian air defense radar a 10-minute heads up if they will be transiting Iranian airspace. This is a common procedure for commercial aircraft. It involves them giving your call sign, transponder code, type of aircraft, and points of origin and destination. I just flew with a guy who overheard this conversation on the emergency frequency while flying from Europe to Dubai. It's too good to pass along. The conversation went something like this. Air defense radar. Unknown aircraft at unknown location. You are in Iranian airspace. Identify yourself. Aircraft. This is a United States aircraft. I am in Iraqi airspace. Air defense radar. You are in Iranian airspace. If you do not depart our airspace, we will launch interceptor aircraft. This is a United States Marine Corps F/A-18 fighter. Send them up, I'll wait. Air defense radar, total silence.
Thank you, Eric. And I just wanted to remind both you and Christina, sometimes you were breaking up just a little bit because I think you're not in the center of your screen. So you may want to be careful. I got the entire joke, but there were portions of it which were, it was as if you were in Iranian airspace and I couldn't quite capture some of it, but.
You want me to repeat it?
No, that won't be necessary.
No.
I am thrilled tonight to introduce, as our general evaluator for our meeting this evening, not only is he a joke teller, but he is a wonderful general evaluator. Please welcome back Eric Stepper.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. It's my pleasure to be the general evaluator, and I will look at the whole meeting. We have one speech tonight, but as always, the general evaluator has a team, and I'd like to call on my team. Lloyd Smith has a speech tonight, and his evaluator is going to be Pat Whitfield. Will you tell us what your role is tonight?
Sure, my role will be to evaluate all the elements of Lloyd's speech. His topic is understanding emotional intelligence. It's at level 3 of motivational strategies path. And the purpose of his 5 to 7 minute speech is for him to cultivate an understanding of how his emotions impact relationships. It's also designed to help him identify how others' emotions impact his emotional state. The purpose of this speech is for him to share some aspect of his experience journaling emotions or being aware of emotions when interacting with others. And as I said, this is a 5 to 7 minute speech.
Thank you, Pat. Very good. Our timer tonight is Dean Karath. Dean, what is going to be your role tonight?
I will be recording times of the speaker, the evaluator, and table topics. For Lloyd's speech, it will be green at 5 minutes, yellow at 6 minutes, red at 7 minutes. For the evaluation, it's 2 minutes for green, 2.5 minutes for yellow, and 3 minutes for red. And the table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. So green is 1, yellow is 1.5, and red is 2. I will report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Dean. Those colors are excellent. We can see those. Pitch hitting for grammarian tonight is Barb. Barb is the role of grammarian tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully for their language usage. I'll take notes of any improper language as well as any outstanding words or phrases or quotes that I hear. As grammarian, it's also my duty to introduce the word of the day. And Pat, thank you for helping me today. The word is bibliophile. Bibliophile is somebody who loves books. So I'm going to use it in a sentence for you. Because Barbara is a known bibliophile, she did not surprise anyone when she chose library of science as her major. Bibliophile. I will pass it back to you, Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Rob, you double hit yourself. You're a counter too.
Well, thank you for doing the joke of the day, Eric, because I thought for sure I was going to have 4 or 5 roles. I think I can handle everything that someone assigned me this evening. I'm very excited to be the odd counter this evening. When giving speeches, it's very important for the speech maker to avoid using noises and filler words that can be distracting to the listener of those speeches. Tonight, I will be listening for those filler words and noises, and I will report at the end of the meeting to let people know how they're doing, because it's important for speakers to know what filler words and noises they're using so that they can learn and grow and not use those in future speeches. Again, I will report at the end of the meeting how we've done. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
And this is our impression of the ping-pong match. Postmaster Rob, you didn't hear me?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. It's good to be back here in front of you all again. Tonight, we have one speech, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Tonight, Lloyd Smith is going to share with us the concept of emotional intelligence, which has been fairly controversial one since it was developed in the mid-1960s. EQ has been viewed variously as the key to understanding what makes us human, or as psychobabble happy talk, what everything is in between. This evening, Lloyd Smith is doing the Understanding Emotional Intelligence project, which is required for level 3 of his motivational strategies path. He'll use the project to discuss the practical aspects of EQ as he experienced them during his career as a high school teacher. I present Lloyd Smith and Sir, Yes, Sir, Sir, Yes, Sir by Lloyd Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I've done this project before for another path, and so I decided to take some liberties with it, with the outline of it. In fact, considerable liberties, as you'll see, but I think it'll make sense at the end. Emotional intelligence is most often defined as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. And that's exactly what the people who wrote our project defined it as too. People with high emotional intelligence can recognize their own emotions and those of others and adjust emotions to adapt to environments. The concept of emotional intelligence first appeared in about the middle 1960s, and it gained popularity in a 1995 bestseller called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Studies have shown that people with high emotional intelligence tend to have better mental health, better job performance, and leadership skills, although the studies don't show any causal relationships. Emotional intelligence is usually associated with empathy because it involves an individual's connecting their personal experiences with those of others. When I first heard about emotional intelligence around the time I started teaching in the fall of 1970, it sounded to me like psychobabble. However, I came to see it differently. Let me tell you the story of how that happened. My first student teacher in 1977 was a retired US Army major, a few years older than I was, who was starting a second career in education. He was a very bright guy who was going through Central Washington University's teacher certification program. He had a major in history and a minor in English, so he was assigned to one of our history teachers for 3 periods a day and the other 2 periods to me. Before he arrived, I told my students that though he was a student teacher, they needed to regard him as a real teacher whose actions and decisions I would back up. Though he would be gone in about 10 weeks, I would still be there and I would remember everything that anyone did to make his stay with us difficult. One afternoon, after observing for a week or so, he was teaching his first lesson in American literature. I was sitting in the back of the room. He did a nice job with the lesson, and then he gave a reading assignment for the next day that the kids could start on during the last 10 minutes of class. Very predictably, some of the students started socializing, and I thought, okay, I'll get to see his classroom control techniques now. Earlier, he had told me that as a career Army officer, he didn't expect to have any issues with discipline. I told him that the kids were not his troops, and flatly ordering them to obey was not likely to work as well as it did when he was in the Army. Sure enough, when the socializing started, he announced in his military command voice, "You will be silent. You will read the material. You will be prepared to discuss it tomorrow. Am I clear?" I thought, oh, great. How are we going to recover from this? And a moment later, a kid sitting at the back of the room, a couple of desks away from me, jumped up, saluted, and said, "Sir, yes, sir." The room went nuts. The kids howled with laughter, and I nearly laughed too. My student teacher, however, was not laughing. His face was beet red with anger, and he started walking down the aisle toward the grinning smart-mouthed kid. He said, "Wipe that smirk off your face, soldier." And the kids laughed again. I jumped up to head him off so he wouldn't attack the kid, but we were saved by the bell and the kids ran out of the room. Now, what had gone wrong? A lot, as it turned out. His career as a military officer was one that did not require emotional intelligence, the ability, as I said earlier, to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. Army officers give orders, soldiers obey the orders, period. The officers don't need to consider the emotional states of their troops. There are very sound reasons for that in a military context because quick, unquestioning obedience can be a matter of life or death. But my student teacher didn't and couldn't understand that civilian teenagers just don't do quick, unquestioning obedience. Teachers who try to push for that generally fail, or at best get only grudging cooperation, coupled with a lot of subtle sabotage. Either way, they usually make the kids and themselves miserable in the process. After class, he calmed down, but I could see that he was puzzled by the situation. When I said that he wasn't in the Army, so he'd need to adapt to the situation he was in, he said he understood, but wouldn't it be better if the kids acted like the soldiers he had commanded? The next morning, his college supervisor came by to tell us that during the night, he had decided to quit student teaching and rethink his future. That was probably a wise decision based on what I had seen. The lesson from all of this is clear. Teenagers are creatures of emotion, and the only way to get something done with creatures like that is to understand their emotional makeup and work with it, not against it. That is, high school teachers need the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. My student teacher was a creature of his life experience where he didn't need that ability at all. Emotional intelligence might be a fuzzy sounding concept, but trust me on this, when it's not there, it becomes a crystal clear reality. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. Timer, can we get 1 minute for everybody to put their suggestion in the chat box, just to Lloyd, please?
He's incredible.
Hey, get out of there. Don't eat that. Oh, you idiot. Jeez. Damn cat.
Did they get into your dinner?
No, he ate, I think it was a little, I hope it's a little piece of paper, but it might have been a piece of rubber band.
Okay, that was 1 minute. And speaking of creatures that need emotional intelligence, that would be a cat.
I don't know. They're pretty good at doing manipulation. So I,
Oh, I mean, we need it to deal with them.
yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke.
That's okay, Dean. Thank you very much. I would like to turn the meeting over to our table topics master this evening. Please welcome Christina Stepper.
Thank you, Rob. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, bibliophiles. Welcome to your opportunity to use the word bibliophile repeatedly, and good luck with that based on these questions. This will be interesting. Our topic tonight is one simple idea can do stuff. There are some do stuffs I have put on a list for each of you. Lloyd and Pat, do you want to participate? Yes? All right, excellent. Pat, I'll keep you to the end so you can make notes on your evaluation if you need to. Here we go. One simple idea can create a new sport. Steve, what simple idea created a new sport?
I have no idea. What one simple idea could create a new sport? I think a night standing around a campfire with one's pals could actually create that opportunity. It makes me think of the fun that we can create out of almost nothing. And a bunch of guys standing around a campfire, be it in the backyard or in the woods, probably is going to involve hands in this position holding an aluminum can or maybe a glass bottle. And after some period of time, imaginations will begin to work overtime because there's nothing like a relaxed brain to come up with crazy ideas. A fun idea at that time of night with sparks flying in the air might be something like, that bad leg of yours probably keeps you from hopping much. No, I got good distance. I can clear quite a distance, even with my peg leg. Here, hold my beer. And the next thing you know, those little embers are floating up the pant legs of individuals, seeing who suddenly can get the biggest air and the most distance over a campfire, leaping up into the air right about waist level. And of course, as the evening progresses, it opens the door for opportunities to go awry. It makes me think of someone I recently heard about who was close to the campfire and somebody decided to help him jump with a gentle push. And the next thing you know, his pant leg was on fire. Didn't go well, but he didn't die either. Hey, here, hold my beer. Back to you, Ms. Table Topics Master.
Well done, Steve. Sounds like a great sport. Probably be in the next Olympics. Beer drinking and hopping on one leg. We'll see if we can't get that one in. One simple idea can make someone's day. Barbara, how could one simple idea make someone's day?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. So the question is, what is one simple idea that could make someone's day? I believe the idea of waking up and being mindful and taking the time to be mindful about where you're at is a wonderful idea to be able to make someone else's day, to set your mindset before you even leave your home so that you are set and primed to make somebody's day. So if you're already in that giving space, then you might drive through a coffee stand and buy the person behind you a coffee. Or you might say good morning to somebody you don't know. Or you might offer a homeless person a library card. Because again, you put yourself in that mindset to be in a place, to be empathetic, forgiving, kind of a neutral space. That would be what I would do and do to pass on so I don't leak my mood over anyone else. And doing something good for somebody always makes you feel better. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Barbara. Great answer. Inspiration for all of us to think of one simple idea that can make someone's day every day. Sometimes simple ideas aren't so great. One simple idea can backfire. Rob, have you ever had a simple idea backfire?
Yes. I first started in Rotary as the fund manager, and then I became the committee chair for fundraising. I came up with an idea that we would staff a concession stand at the Gorge. I convinced my fellow Rotarians that we were going to do this for a season. It turned out to be a terrible idea because we would have to be there in the morning. We wouldn't get home until 2 or 3 in the following morning, standing out in the element, serving beers to people who probably had too many already. It was a long day and it really wore everybody out. However, that one idea, bad idea as it was, actually turned into an even better idea, because now we staff a concession stand at the hockey games right here in town at the town Toyota Center, making as much money, serving beer to people who know when they've had enough. And that first bad idea has helped us gain a really good idea for the Rotary Club. That has led into another idea, which I'm not sure if it's going to end up being good or bad. But this week, our Rotary Club acquired 5,000 rubber ducks. So the next project will be to figure out how we can fundraise with little rubber ducks. Gladly accept any ideas that you might have, because I haven't come up with one good idea yet for the rubber ducks. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Rob. There's another task for us. Come up with one simple idea that can revolutionize the use of rubber ducks to make the Rotary bunches of money. I like it. One simple idea can revolutionize an industry. Dean, tell us about a simple idea that has revolutionized an industry. And if you'll give us just a second before you start, we will time you. So just a minute, hang on. Okay. Go right ahead.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind at this point is the lithium-ion battery. Those have been around for quite a number of decades, but with the better materials and better understanding of the batteries, they've led to all kinds of wonderful things and actually revolutionized more than just one industry. For example, the iPhone and laptops industry, the electronics industry, but also the automobile industry with electric vehicles, which would not be terribly, or at least not be as effective as they are now if we still had to rely on the old lead acid batteries. That's, by the way, where I started my career, was at a battery company. I actually had a ride in an electric vehicle at that point, but they were lead acid batteries. They were heavy. They were hazardous metals. And that was during the 70s, during the last oil crisis, and they just never really took off. But now we have lithium-ion batteries. Electric vehicles are finally becoming a reality. Within the next 10 or 20 years, I would hope sooner, but realistically not, that they will pretty much take over automotive and transportation industry, at least as far as passenger vehicles, buses, maybe even trucks. So that's my offering for a simple idea, at least on the surface, that has revolutionized more than one industry. Back to you, Madam
Thank you.
Tabletop.
Your time was 1 minute, 51 seconds. Great answer. We're going to change to a little bit different mindset here. See if we can get some bibliophile responses going. One simple idea can launch a hit rock band. Eric, how did a simple idea launch a hit rock band?
I think it was something like, here, hold my beer and watch this. I can't get this one story out of my mind, and I want to eat some humble pie and tell a story on myself. It's one bad idea. I'm always into health and get different email letters, health letters, and always trying to get better. And so this one year, it was in that vein that I bought a present for Christina. On Christmas, I always number the presents. Number one, open number one, then number two, and the best one I always have saved for last. And we had sons and daughters over, and it was a whole big Christmas celebration. And she opened present after present, and Lisa was being Santa and handing out presents. And I was all excited about this last present, and Christina opened it up, and it was a neti pot. And, this is a good way to, so because she kept getting sick every winter and getting colds and stuff like this. And I thought, well, this would be something to help that. And she didn't even know what a neti pot was. So I was showing her how to work it. You put the water in and you go down one nostril, out the other nostril, and it kind of like this, and it irrigates, and then you go the other way, and you got to make sure it's just lukewarm, all that kind of stuff. And she looks at me and she says, so basically you want me to waterboard myself? It was not going well. And my daughter, Lisa, looked at me like I just put Coca-Cola in her Cheerios. I mean, I was persona non grata for the rest of the holiday. Anyway, I had to get that out and eat some humble pie. Thank you, Tabletop Master.
I don't know what that has to do with the hit rock band, but it did rock our world, let me tell you that. And I can recommend to all of you that you not buy your loved one a neti pot and portray it as the most important Christmas gift under the tree for your loved one.
Which also makes me question what one thinks the very best last present to give someone should be.
Anything but a neti pot. A vacuum cleaner is even better than a neti pot. If you ever want to borrow it, we have one. Moving right along. One simple idea can change the course of a country. One simple idea can change the course of a country. Lloyd?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. That's a really good prompt, but I'm going to ignore it because I've been thinking about Steve's question about the simple idea to start a new sport. There actually is a real world answer to that question, and the answer is snowboarding. That was not a sport until pretty recently, really. The way I understand it, it began when summertime skateboarders, wheeled skateboarders, somebody got the idea that it might be possible to do that on snow. They were probably inspired partially by surfers too, because there is such a thing as sand surfing and sand skiing. anyway, whoever made the connections inside of his or her head launched that entire sport. And today it is a very important sport. The way I understand it, snowboarders outnumber skiers in the ski areas, even though for years and years the ski areas tried to keep snowboarders out. They weren't apparently professional enough or something, which is true. There were kids having fun. You would have thought everybody should have fun in a sport, but it evolved until now it's an Olympic sport, obviously. Numerous kinds of snowboarding tricks and all sorts of stuff like that, downhill racing and everything. And as I understand it, from an article I read just a few days ago, the viewership for the snowboarding events in the Winter Olympics was about double the viewership for the downhill skiing events. So obviously snowboarding is now the premier winter sport. Skiing has been relegated to the background. So there, it is possible to come up with a new sport. It makes you wonder what the next one is going to be. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lloyd. I also was thinking when I wrote that question about pickleball,
Yeah.
which was developed by a family here in Washington
Yeah.
State. It has just gone crazy
Mhm.
globally now with
The
competitions all over the world.
the inventor, the head of the family, I guess you'd call him, was actually a US congressman at the time. And they developed pickleball because they were avid tennis players, but this was on the west side of the state. So where it rains a lot and tennis balls don't like the rain, obviously. And they started messing around with wiffle balls and ended up with a whole new game, which, as you say, has got apparently millions of people playing it all over the place now.
Yeah, it's lots of fun. We tried it last summer and we're going to get into it more heavily this year. That's the goal.
My experience has been that the pickle doesn't seem to bounce high enough to be hit back.
Yeah.
That's a whole other sport, Steve. You got to work on that one.
Yeah.
It's
Bouncing
really messy. It's really
pickle.
messy to hit a pickle with a tennis racket too. You don't want to do that.
No, it's not bad if you're making relish.
Yeah.
You got to develop a pickle paddle to go with that. All right, moving right along or not. One simple idea can determine a destiny. Pat, what simple idea led to your career?
That's a very interesting question because I have been an educator for more than 50 years. When I was asked as a little girl what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said I wanted to either be an actress or a doctor. Then when I went to college, I changed my major 3 times. I started out in social work, and that didn't work out after I went to LA hospital in a field experience and saw all kinds of things that I didn't enjoy. So then I changed my major to French because I had started learning French at Miss Baird School in Orange, New Jersey when I was 4 years old. Then when I transferred to UCLA, I decided that I would enter the education field in speech correction and audiology. But I got married after I graduated from college and didn't go into any professional jobs until my daughter was about 4. I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and it was a perfect match with wanting to be a doctor and wanting to be an actress because it enabled me not to heal people's bodies, but to develop their intellects in ways that would be useful to them, inspirational to them. And as an actress, I mean, you have to be able to control your emotions and you have to be able to portray all kinds of things while you're teaching and draw that out of others. So I ended up having the opportunity to be both a doctor and an actress on the stage of classrooms all the way from the elementary school through the doctoral level, and the opportunity to consult on the Navajo reservation and among urban Indians in Salt Lake City and in Arizona. So it led me to a wonderful career just because of what I wanted to be when I was a little kid. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. That's a great answer. I believe you probably had a bit of lawyer in you also to manage classrooms, which is a task and skill all unto itself. Thank you, everyone, for participating this evening in our table topics. I've thoroughly enjoyed your responses. At this point, I would like to turn the meeting back to our Toastmaster. Rob?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Wonderful questions, wonderful answers. Can't wait to do this again in another week. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our general evaluator. Please welcome back, Eric Stepper.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Let's get into our evaluation of the meeting. Pat, will you give your evaluation of Lloyd's speech, please?
Well, it's clear that both Lloyd and I are bibliophiles. If you look at our backgrounds, look at all the books. What would you expect from two people who have had long, substantial careers in education? So you have one educator evaluating another educator. What I have to say is about his speech, I was captivated by it. Having been a teacher educator and observed many people making that transition into becoming a teacher or not. His eye contact was excellent. He was speaking. He looked right into the camera. He wasn't looking down or in any other way. His use of gestures was varied and very appropriate to the substance of what his story was. And the word story, his story, it was told as a narrative, as a tale of this military person who didn't quite dig what teenagers were like and expected them to yes sir him and do all whatever they do in the military. Sounded like Catholic school to me, which I went through because nuns are like top sergeants. He had lots of vocal variety. And there was one nice alliteration that he used in there. He talked about the subtle sabotage. Wasn't that nice? Subtle sabotage. Beautiful imagery. His transitions were smooth. There was a sense of irony, and the whole thing was undergirded with humor. I really enjoyed the speech, and I couldn't nitpick anything. I really couldn't decide what he could use to challenge himself. But since I had to nitpick at something on the evaluation sheet that has all these separate points about it relating to the audience, the last one was topic. Share some aspect of his experience journaling emotions or being aware of emotions when interacting with others. So if he wanted to be totally bonded to the requirements of this particular topic in this particular category, it might have been a good idea for him to relate, and he said he'd given this speech before, but relate to what his journaling led him to believe and increased his perceptions about this particular experience. But overall, I just thought it was an excellent speech. And teacher to teacher, you go, guy. It was great.
Thank you, Pat. Dean, will you present the timers report, please?
Certainly. I will start out with our two bibliophiles. That was exactly the line I was going to use that Pat used, so I'll just have to reference to it and bask in the glow of her wonderful observation. Lloyd's speech was 6 minutes and 12 seconds, well within time. Pat's evaluation was 2 minutes and 38 seconds, also well within time. Steve's table topics was 218. Barbara was 147. Rob was 206. I was 151. Eric was approximately 155. I had to guess there a little bit because I had an alarm going off back behind me. Lloyd, you were 154, and Pat, you were 213. That concludes my timer's report.
Thank you, Dean. Barb, thanks again for stepping in for grammarian. I hate being surprised with the grammarian role, so appreciate that. What is the grammarian's report tonight?
Thank you, General Evaluator. It was a pleasure listening to all of your speeches today. Excuse me. I've made a note of all the excellent grammar usage, and I took notes of Pat. I really liked when you said stage of the classroom, but I will say that when you answered the topic, there was so much to write down. You are a beautiful speaker. Lloyd, I took a lot of notes on your speech as well. I do like the quick, unquestioning obedience, which is never used in terms of children, and adapt to the situation he was in, which is incredibly profound. And when you're thinking about emotional IQ. Rob, I liked your idea. The first bad idea led to a good idea. That was great. And Christina, because I always have to add some humor, don't recommend a neti pot as the best gift under the tree. So she wins the best quote. And of course, I also liked, I always like when Lloyd says, and he's done it more than once, that's a great question, but I'm going to ignore it. It was a really joy to listen to everybody's word usage tonight. I don't really have anything negative to report on. The word bibliophile, Christina, you used it 3 times. Pat, I believe once or twice, and Dean once. I appreciate you all using that word, and I left a link for the bibliophiles in the chat to the book that Lloyd referenced. Thank you. Back to you, General.
Very good, thank you. How'd we do on awe counting? Will you present the awe counting report, Rob, please?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. We did fantastic tonight. Very few filler words. I will tell you who was perfect tonight. Lloyd, you were perfect in your speech, not one filler word. However, in the table topics, you had a couple of ums. Dean, you started your initial table topics with the word well right from the get-go. So that was the only thing that I heard in your response. Pat, you were perfect. Steve, you were perfect. Christina, you were perfect. Eric, you had one sentence that you started with "and." You also used some foreign language that I didn't get, so I'm not going to actually use that against you. Barbara, you were perfect. Everyone did a fantastic job. I probably was the one that committed the most errors this evening. So tonight I win the awe use award. And that is my report. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Rob. Again, another stellar meeting. Lloyd, thanks for doing a speech. You are so stellar in that regard. We appreciate you doing that. We started the meeting a little bit late, but we were waiting for people to come on and we had one speech, and I just don't find that to be a detraction from the meeting at all. We had great table topics, great thoughtful responses, a lot of humor. It was a great meeting. I look forward to these meetings and look forward to the next one. And I will hand it off to our president, Barb.
Thank you. And I want to mirror what you said, that it was a great evening. And thank you, Lloyd, for giving a speech. Before I close out the meeting, are there any announcements? Rob.
Thank you, Madam President. Next week, we are going back to a hybrid meeting. For those who can attend in person, we will be back at the library. However, we will also have Zoom capability as well for those who are not able to attend. I also want to reinstitute picking the speaker of the evening. We haven't been doing that for a while. Tonight, I felt personally, hands down, that Pat and Lloyd were on the top of their game. They both did a wonderful job. I would say they were co-winners this evening. Back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Oh, sorry, Lloyd.
I'm not sure we have the trophy, or do we? Did Vicky bring that back in? I can't remember. We'll have to look in the boxes that we have, those plastic boxes, but you know, for about 2 years, the trophy was gone, but that's because we didn't have access to any of our stuff anyway. But yeah, none of you have it, right? I don't have it. Okay, well, we'll look in the boxes and see.
For some reason, I seem to think Vicky may have it in her possession.
I can check the boxes when I go back to work too, just in case.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, it's not a critical thing. It just popped into my mind that we haven't seen it for like 2 years, so around somewhere.
Okay, well, thank you everyone who participated. Well, we all participated, so thank you to everyone and all of our fellow Toastmasters.
Christina had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christina, I did not see you. I apologize.
No worries. I just wanted to remind everyone that we are going to celebrate being back in person next week by going afterward, a appetizer imbibement, whatever, at one of the nearby establishments to be determined. We can decide that next week, but just a reminder to put that on your calendars. If you can attend, that would be great.
Does that involve a handheld aluminum can?
It had probably a glass with contents that may have come from an aluminum can.
Well, there's a great brewery and pizza place next door. Can't remember what it's called all of a sudden off the top of my head. And then there's a
Saddle Rock?
rest. What?
Battle Rock.
Yes, Saddle Rock. And there's also that restaurant that's the Rail House. Is
Rail
across-
station?
Rail
Yeah.
House, Rail Station, yeah.
You're not a big drinker, are you, Barb?
No, I just go to drink.
But
I
you
do
are-
partake in pizza next door though. So
The name of the bar popped right out of your mouth, Eric. I mean,
I know it's really embarrassing because I'm actually a beer snob,
yeah.
which you will all see next Monday if you join us.
So we can
Right.
catch Barb down at Wally's House of Booze sampling the brew.
You will not catch me there.
laying
That
face
is, that,
down-
that right there is sacrilege.
yeah, laying face down on the sidewalk the next morning. With a couple other drunks.
You should have seen the look on my face when Jared Ali talked to me about moving the library next to the bar on downtown in East Wenatchee. And I was like, she was joking, of course. I was a little bit horrified. So, but
Okay,
then maybe
everyone.
we could do a program with beer and. All right. Thank you, everyone who participated.